Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be learning about paging. Now, you may be thinking about paging as in, numbers showing up when you're scrolling on a page and you need to move to a new page, so like pagination. That's very true as well. And there's not much you can really do there when, animating those types of numbers or values. But when I think about other types of paging, it's very similar to those navigation prototypes that we created. And I start to think a lot about like carousels and, not just carousels, but also different types of like swiping thumbnail images when you're using like an application like Airbnb. So users should really know exactly what's happening in terms of which page they're on, which image they're on. And what I'm going to show you today is a very quick way to do that with different types of pagination and different levels of complexity when it comes to actually animating those types of prototypes. So we're going to start off with something relatively simple and, just do your best to follow along, or you can go ahead and create your own. This is just going to be using dots, something that you've probably seen so much in apps like I mentioned before. Now, the file that you do have actually has 5 dots and it's much more complex, but I'm going to do 3. So you can go ahead and kind of create your own, totally up to you. So what I have here is I have 3 dots. And you must have noticed that I just deleted one of those dots and my frame is still longer. The easiest way to get your frame to kind of move back and encompass all of your elements within is to press this little button here, which is resize to fit. And you can tell that just below that tooltip is your shortcut. So I'm going to do that and I'm just going to move it back to the middle by clicking this button up here. So now I'm going to have 3 different states. As you can tell, I have my active state. This is an in-between state. And this is the inactive state. And you may be thinking, Daniel, why do I have 3 states? Generally, we only kind of have 2. It's on or off. Now, I want to kind of take this paging prototype a little bit to the next level. Not too complex, but just it gives the users a little bit more feedback when they've clicked on something. So the easiest way to do that is to kind of have another state here. So this is the color for that state. So what I want to happen is, if I were to duplicate this, perfect. So what I want to happen is if I click on this second one, I want it to show that and then switch to the white. So I'm going to click this one. This is going to be our, our starting state. So the easiest way to do this is to click. So I'll go back just to show you what I did there because it happened really quickly. I pressed I and it automatically gives me my color picker. And I'm just going to pick the inactive state. So if I were to think about this in a sequence, I click the second button and that happens. We can already start prototyping it, but we're not going to do that right now. So we'll just create a new page. So I just Command C, Command V. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click that. And now that second one is in its active state. And you can do the exact same thing and so on for the other pages. So first I want to actually see how this is going to play out. So I'm going to start prototyping right away. So I'm going to prototype from the first to the second. So when I click this one, drag over here. So on click, I have navigate to this simple paging frame and we're going to keep it smart animated. So you notice that they're all named carousel dot. So we're going to keep at 300 for now and then we'll go from there. And then we want this to automatically transition. And I'm sure you all remember when we were doing some of those more complex transitions, we were using after delay to really simulate something happening without us having to trigger it. So it's just going to happen regardless. So when that happens, we'll do 1 millisecond and then we'll do another 300 milliseconds into the third one over here. And then it will be the final state. So the way this is supposed to happen is click, show me that I click something, active. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I've opened my prototype. Let's actually, let's bring this up a bit in size. Okay, perfect. Now let's see what it looks like. So that was pretty nice. Let's start that again. I press R. So that was really quick, or not quick enough. So maybe we cut this down to 200. Let's see what that looks like. So a lot of this prototyping is really kind of refining these values to just kind of feel more natural. You don't want animations or different types of transitions taking longer than they have to. I feel like the active state almost can be much shorter. This kind of click state can be much shorter than what we have it as. So I think that's good enough. So it's boom, boom, perfect. So we can actually start doing that for the rest of the different states over here. So if I were to bring this one down, so that is this state. I'm actually going to now make this third state from the first button. So we have to actually create a bunch of different states. So if you look at how I'm gonna position these, I'll do the first. That's the first active state. This is the second active state. And then we'll even do a third active state. So we'll boom. And now we can actually bring this down. The one thing we have to be careful about is creating these duplicates when it comes to actual prototypes. So we'll just hook up everything all over again. So that's to go back. Remember to use I to grab that color. This is to go to the third dot over there on the right. And we're going to do the exact same thing for everything else. So Command D will automatically, so I've duplicated this by pressing Option and Shift. And then I pressed Command D to create the exact same. And you can do that as much as you want. Oops. So we'll do that again. I'll show you what it looks like. You can just keep on doing that if you need to create multiple versions. So that is the second one. And on this one, I'm going to actually make it the first one. So now we can actually start to put these all together nicely. Okay, let's jump right in. So the prototype that I have here is that one goes to the second. If I were to click the third, it goes there, and it's going to be 150 milliseconds. So we'll just keep that for now. Totally up to you in terms of what timing you want to use. Make sure that it's not too long because then it just starts feeling a bit unnatural. That's fine. So we can just kind of like rush right through a lot of this. And the same thing here. As you can tell, it's starting to create flows, and we don't want that. So we're just going to delete those flows. And now we can move from here to here. So that is the second stage. So we'll do 200 milliseconds. This is the third one. We are going to do the same thing. 200 milliseconds, perfect. This one, oops. See, this is another oversight by me. Make sure that you have it set to after delay and 1 millisecond in terms of it happening right after. Because then you're going to be waiting around and wondering why your prototype's not working properly. So we'll just bring this one. This one is going to connect to the first. Remember to click the entire frame. If you click one single element, it's actually not going to do anything. So this one's going to be the third one. Oops. So let's click after delay, 1 millisecond. Perfect. And let's just finish this up really quickly. And just like that, we've put together a very small prototype of our carousel. So let's see what that looks like. And as a user, I can automatically see that there is like an in-between, and this is kind of what we would call the active state or a focus state. So when you actually focus on something and click it, and then you see that final state come through. So this is how you actually create a very simple carousel within Figma. And it didn't take us much longer than something normal would take us in terms of just making it much more simpler. We added an in-between state. Yeah, it did create a couple of different screens for us, but just showcasing this as a quick animation really helps others see just kind of how it's supposed to work. And we're actually going to get into something a little bit more complex. I remember when I was talking about navigations and creating much more complex navigation transitions and adding a little bit of animation can make it more fun. We are going to actually get into creating something pretty cool in our next video.